We will start from the beginning. This is for this lesson for third preparatory first term, introduced by Engineer Jihan. Well, we're gonna talk about solving quadratic equations. Solving quadratic equations are solved in two different ways, algebraically and graphically. First, we have this equation 2x squared plus 3x minus 9 equals 0. To find this root algebraically, we have first an introduction about formula of the quadratic equation in one variable. This formula is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where ab, as you see here, a, sorry, this is our a, b, and c are the constants of this equation, and of course a is not equal to 0 to keep the degree of the equation x squared. So the formula is in the second degree because we have x raised to the power 2. Now, this is the general form of the general rule for solving quadratic equation. X1 and 2 equal negative b positive or negative root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That means plus and minus. This means that we have two solutions. X1 is negative b plus the root over 2a, and x2 is negative b minus the root over 2a. From this, to start solving the equation, we have first to put the quadratic equation in this form, quadratic equals 0. That means if we have any part of the equation in the right, we have to translate it to the left and then equate this quadratic equation to 0 in this form. The order of the quadratic equation equals the number of solutions. That means if the order of the quadratic equation is 2, so this is of order 2, we have two solutions. If this part is truncated, that means we have equation of the first part, of the first degree, and the graph will be totally different. Graph of second order is parabola, but graph of the first order, or first degree is a straight line. This part is called a variable term, and the multiple of the variable is called coefficient of x, and this constant term. Then this equation has two solutions, x1 and x2. And this is the general formula for solving the quadratic equation. So first, to solve this quadratic equation, I have to put the quadratic equation in the form quadratic equals 0. The equation must be equal 0. That's first. Then substitute a, b, and c, that's the constant in the quadratic equation, in this formula in the general rule to solve it and get x1 and x2. Now, this part under the root have three cases. We have to check for the values inside the square root to detect or to know the type of the roots. To figure out the type of the roots, we have three cases. The first case, b squared minus 4ac greater than 0. That's the part under, this is the part under the square root. So if this part is greater than 0, so we know that we have two real roots. If this part is equal to 0, we have only one repeated root. That means, for example, negative 2, x1 and x2 equal negative 2. If b squared minus 4ac, that's part under the square root, is less than 0, that means there is a negative under the square root. We have an imaginary root or a complex root. Let's see or check for the first case, b squared minus 4ac. For example, we have here equation 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. If we substitute where a equal to b equal negative 1, remember to put the sign, not only the value of the constant, the sign of the constant too, because ax squared, that means a is 2. b is negative x. We have here negative x, so b is negative 1, and c is negative 6. Then the quadratic equation in the form we will substitute by a, b, c in the general rule and get x1 and x2. Like this. So the two roots are 2 and negative 2 over, sorry, 2. Now, b squared minus 4ac equals 0. That means, let's see this example. This is the second example for this case. X squared plus 4x plus 4, where a equal 1, b equal 4, and c equal 4. Now that quadratic equation in this form, we solve it and get the repeated root -2. That means x1 and x2 equal -2. The third case is b squared minus 4ac. When this value is less than 0, we have imaginary roots. That means -1 under the root. In this case, we get I. I means root -1. So we have -1 plus root I, root 19I over 2, and -1 minus root 19I over 2. These are the two complex solutions. Now, let's solve our example that's put in the first algebraically. 2x squared plus 3x minus 9 equals 0. First, we have to be sure that the quadratic equation is in the form quadratic equals 0. And it's clear that it is in the form. Now, let's solve it by the general rule, -b positive or negative root b squared minus 4ac over 2. We substitute by a, b, c, and get the solutions. It's 3 over 2. The solutions are 3 over 2 and -3. That's how we can solve the equation algebraically. Thanks for watching.